Wow. Okay, well, this is good. I've got to find my talk. It was good before. It's living on purpose, and I'm going to just tell you my purpose. It came to me while he was singing a song, and here's my purpose for today. My purpose is to inspire you and empower you to know that you can climb anything because God is your Sherpa. Yeah. Yes, so many of us don't take on things because we think, well, how can I do it? Get over it. God's got great plans for us. I'm going to tell you the end of the story. I'm going to tell you the end of the talk. Then you're going to wonder, this is how I actually read books. I read the first little bit, kind of get the groove. Then I read the back. I see how it ends. If I don't like how it ends, why would I read the rest? I mean, really. What a waste of time. You read, you hope it gets better and better and better, and then you get to the end and you go, ick. Okay, so here's the end. You are on a mission from God. You are the angels of heaven to make the world a better place. Now, if you don't like that ending, you can leave. Because now I'm going to talk you into how to do that. Who's up for it? Yeah, it's better than being a victim. It's better than, oh, what they did to me. Look what they're doing to me. Look who was elected. Actually, I was inspired by watching the talks that Abigail and Reverend Jerry did. Reverend Abigail and Jerry. You know, they were getting you ready. They're getting you set. Now I'm going to get, now we're going to initiate having the best year of your life so far. Why not? Yeah, why not? And so to me, and I talked about this New Year's Eve, a life worth living is meaningful. A life worth living is satisfying. A life worth living is delightful. So that's my intention for us. It's certainly my intention for me. And it's my intention to be a vehicle through which the Holy Spirit works to speak to you way beyond what I can say in words. So here we go. Delightful comes from how you do things, and so how you do things was what I talked about on New Year's Eve. So for those of you that weren't there, that's great. It's on YouTube. It's free. Watch it. It's about your theme. How you're going to do stuff will either be delightful or painful. It'll either be easy or be hard, and everybody thinks that that's the way it is, and that's a bunch of bunk. How you decide is how it's going to be, will be how it will be. I mean, there's evidence. There's so much evidence for that. Biology of belief. I mean, Pearson, go. There's stuff out there. Just believe me when I say you're the one that chooses how you go through life. That's not today's talk. That was New Year's Eve. Today, I want to address meaningfulness. To have meaning in your life. I get a lot of my ideas from Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. Honestly, he would be really up to date on things. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm not just look at the lady talking. My name is Kathianne Lewis, and my pronouns are she and her. So I'm sure that if Viktor Frankl were around, he would not say man's search for meaning, because I'm sure women search for meaning just as much as men do, and he would know that by now. That was just the way they talked then, so it would be folks search for meaning. Yes, a bunch of folks searching for meaning. That's what he would say. So if we want to search for meaning, we must search for our why. Why? Purpose is about why you do something. And we all have a why, but a lot of us don't bother to look about why we're doing something. And maybe it's because, like me, you were programmed out of asking why. How many of you, when you said why, how many of you know that children go through a why stage? And how many of you were told, stop asking why? How many of you were told, because I say so? And so kind of why became sort of like a dirty word. So we forgot to ask why. And yet why, when you match why with what, good things can happen. But a lot of us do what without the why? The why helps us better understand our outcomes. Why is the purpose of a thing? Jerry told her story last week about her trip to Egypt. And she had ideas about why that was. She got to see light on her hands. And she also got to, and I'm not downplaying any of this, but she also got to see the initials of her beloved nephew that had died. I mean, it's all sort of like, oh, God brought me to this place. And I suggested to her, because sometimes why appears later, and then you go, I suggested to her this morning in the first service that perhaps why she was drawn to Egypt is so that she could finally expand her mental equivalence in such a way that she knew that if God could take her to Egypt, God could take her anywhere. Sometimes you need a big enough carrot to get out of your little box of this is what's possible. And we have this little possibility. And what we do to make ourselves feel better is we just decorate it on the inside. And we're bumping up against it all the time, but it's got pictures and nice drapes. But it's still small. I mean, I'm looking at Jane Power. Wow, she expanded my mental equivalence for the audaciousness of saying, we're going to spend months in Europe. Like, I thought 2 weeks was good. Do you see how sometimes we just like, boo, boo, boo. If Jane can do it, I can do it. If someone can go to Egypt, I can do it. Oh, I have multiple times, but still. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like the purpose, the why is sometimes just to expand us, to elevate our mental equivalence. So I'll tell you my own why story. Because once she declared that she's going, the universe made straight her way. So my story is that I was in Sedona at a ministerial conference, convo, whatever they call it. Bunch of gathering of ministers. We were in Sedona in a very inexpensive hotel out on the outskirts of Sedona, and there was no pool. I mean, it was just, so Mike Baker and I took our little flimsy little chairs they had. They had little chairs outside our doors, and we put them out on the lawn in the sun. And here we are in these chairs that are wobbly, and we're talking about why is it that ministers put up with this, especially ministers that believe that God is our source. And we were told it's so that all the more ministers could go because so many of them couldn't afford anything better. That's against our teaching, because God is our source. It's not a sin, but if a sin is a mistake, it was a mistake. Because we want everybody to go and not feel left out. We don't want to exclude anybody. How many of you have ever been there? Well, so Mike and I just said, this is ridiculous, because I don't like staying in this place. See, I had a third husband who really expanded my possibilities of staying in nice places. I've had enough husbands that I've gained something from all of them. He was my mental equivalence that you can do better. So Mike and I are talking, and we also realized that many ministers didn't have an idea about how to run a business, and yes, a church is a business. They were taught to teach and preach and counsel, but not how to balance anything, not how to do anything that really would allow the organization to sustain them with a living wage. So we put those two things together, and we developed the Ministers' Ongoing Education Conference, Mike Baker and I. And then he said, and I don't want to ever stay in a place like this. He said, we're going to stay in the best places. So we arranged the first year at the Biltmore. We stayed at the Salish Lodge for 3 years in a row. We stayed in the inn at the market. I mean, we stayed in great places. They were resorts. They were beautiful. And everything was paid for because we didn't want ministers saying, I can't afford it. Because we wanted them to be there and have their consciousness expanded to, this is what's possible as a minister. Get over your poor self. Because that was our purpose, was to educate for better ways that they could run a church, and also to give them the experience of luxury. That was our purpose. Our what was we want to put it on. We spoke in March, and by November, we had the funding to send 25 ministers to the first ongoing education conference. All expenses paid at the very best places. And that included Mike and I. That's what happens when you are on fire with a holy purpose, when what you're doing has meaning, not like, well, wouldn't it be fun to do this thing? Does this make sense? I'm not getting a yes. Well, I'm getting okay, God, yeah, right over there, that area. But there's a whole lot of, I do see you guys. Do you realize that I'm not talking to the screen anymore, although I don't wonder what you're doing as well. Put that in the notes. Put it in the chat, how things are going, because I do read later. Okay. The why can put you on fire if you know your why, your purpose, your reason. Now let me define purpose. Purpose is the reason for something that is done or created, the reason we put this ongoing education conference together, or for that which something exists. Two things. Those are the two definitions of purpose. Now, I want to just interject here that a lot of people have purposes, like that may or may not be such a hot purpose. So what I'm going to go for at the end, by the time we get done, is a noble purpose or a holy purpose. Because I've experienced other purposes. How many of you have had little other purposes sometimes? And when your purpose is not high enough and you work on it, what you do doesn't match a high purpose, it can fall apart, not be good. Another wonderful example is my first marriage. Okay. I could write a book on just what I've learned. I was 19 years old. I was a convert to Mormonism. I was an LDS person. And in the LDS church, a woman can only go as far in the afterlife as their husband goes. So, since I already had a relationship with God and I wanted to continue to have a relationship with God, and God only existed at the celestial kingdom, the highest level of heaven, I had to find a man who was worthy of going to the highest level of heaven, or else I and God, we wouldn't be together. So, being the type A problem solver that I am, I scoped out all the guys. I didn't care if I liked them. I just wanted bishop material, because a bishop would certainly get me into the celestial kingdom. And I found one. And we did get married in a very short time. Unfortunately, we didn't really like each other. We had nothing in common, and pretty much didn't respect the way we did things. And so, yes, I did get divorced. I was told all sorts of things, like he could go on and go to the celestial kingdom because it didn't affect the guy. It only affected the woman when she got divorced. I was 19. But even at 19, I realized that the God that I knew would not hold a bunch of stuff against a 19-year-old who wasn't making very good decisions. That, like, no, my God is not going to hold this against me forever and ever. Oh, man, are you kidding me? And what I also realized is that 50 years of hell wasn't worth an eternity of maybe, because I might kill him. I was 19. I've advanced a little bit. So do you see that my purpose was for a better afterlife? And what I did to get there was really not a good plan. I mean, it looked in the short term great, but in the long term, it was going to be hell. Knowing why you do things is important. But you know what? Then I found this philosophy, because what I really wanted, my purpose, was to be united with my God. And guess what? I'm united with my God. I don't have to wait to be united. I feel its presence. I feel its direction. I feel its encouragement and its support all the time, and I don't have to die to get there. My purpose has been fulfilled. Praise God. Now, purpose gives you meaning. Now, so my meaning is still the same. I want to be united with my God. And the meaning, and it's like, does this bring me closer to God, or does this bring me closer to God? It's a moment by moment North Star. It moves me forward. Now let's look at the other part of the definition, which is why something exists. Why something exists. The definition of purpose is why you do something or create something, or why it exists. See, I believe that we were created on purpose for a purpose. We exist on purpose, at least in the greater scheme of things, the love intelligence of the universe that put everything together beautifully. I loved ecology when I was studying that in high school and college. I loved how everything supported everything else. And even the things I didn't like, there was such a good purpose to them. Like, I'm not into spiders. I won't kill them. I asked Tim to take it out the house. I won't, but they're kind of creepy, but they have a great purpose because they kill so many other flying insects. Praise God for spiders. Yeah. I mean, if I had been involved in their design, I may have made them a little bit cuter, but still, I wasn't I was not on that committee. So this is where I want to say that if everything has a purpose and we exist with a purpose already. We already have a purpose. And that's why we can step back from being a victim and say, what might be the purpose that this happened? For what good? What meaning can I take out of this experience and that experience? What meaning can I take out of me even being here? Remember I said that my greater purpose, one of them is to be closer to my God. Well, by doing that, I get direction now. And I've kind of outgrown what would I call it? My psychological phrase. I went through a psychological phase. Not phrase. This is a hard phrase to say. My psychological phase where I was encouraged to blame my foibles and my insecurity on things that happened in my past, and guess what? That was my mom. Perfect. And there was a whole bunch of tics I had and things I would react to and triggers and whatever. And there was one in particular that I just couldn't seem to pray myself out of. And every time I would go back, because I was in my psychological phase, I would go back and I'd see that this was, I don't know, out of an experience I had with my mother. And I'd see myself in the same condition, in the same room, her sitting at the same table, and I'd go, well, this is where it started, Mom. And then I was doing that, but I was growing and connecting more. And then all of a sudden, once again, I was doing my spiritual work, and I was going to go back and bless the situation. And this voice, I'm paraphrasing, but it was definitely there, and it said, you think that she was born for you, but you were born for her. You're here to bless her. You're here to change the story. And I did. I realized that she was the product of mother upon mother upon mother upon mother who had done things. And guess what? I was the end of that. And I realized that I partly incarnated to bless her and let her know that God sees her as innocent. And it wasn't spoken, but at that level of mind, it happened. And I never again had that trigger. I never again had to go back to that place. And luckily, it was before she died, and I know that that was communicated in some wild and wonderful way because she changed with me. And I think she was much more peaceful because I know that she grew and she felt uncomfortable with some of the things that happened. And at last, she was at peace. Not having to hash it out. See, that's all what we think. But Spirit does something at a level that is just unimaginable and more true and more real than what we can figure out with our own mind. That's why I can say that I honestly believe that we're angels of God's ideas on what should happen on earth. That we're not victims. We're sent by God for a purpose greater than ourselves. And it might be just with our family, it might be with our neighborhood, it might be with our country. We don't know. We are secret angels of heaven. Secret angel person. Since we can't say man. Anyway. Now, what might help even more than that is just knowing that I'm sent here on purpose and I'm doing God's work when I take God's direction. I mean, that's pretty powerful in and of itself. But we can also acknowledge that purpose by acknowledging our unique gifts. We were born with gifts that we get to bring to life at this level. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'd love for you to just see what pops up in your head. Please don't try to figure this out. How many of you have ever, how much, don't go like this. Just see what pops, okay? What are your unique gifts? Just don't wait, just see what pops. Things that you do that come to you with ease. Ways you show up with ease. What are you known for? What is so a part of you that you don't even recognize it anymore? Like, some people can understand complex issues. Some people know how to take a thing and make it into another wonderful thing. Some people know how to listen deeply so that people feel secure. Some people know how to say just the right thing to move someone into a new experience of themselves. Some people know how to whistle and play two instruments at the same time. And see, what is yours? What is yours? To know that is to bring that. And to know that, you will start to see every day where that gift of yours is being called forth to be of a blessing and an instrument of goodness to someone else. That's living on purpose. That's meaningful. It's really meaningful. My gifts are, and for better or for worse. Some people say for better, some people say for worse. I have energy, passion, and chi, which makes it really difficult for people to do one-on-one counseling with me, because sometimes I will hear their block and I'll just want to, not them, but I want to just blast the block, blast that idea. And I, as Jerry said, I do have a look that can do, I mean, just not good for everybody. But I also have insight. I had insight when I was a kid. I knew what adults were doing, when they tried to hide it. I knew what was really going on in their heart. I knew those things, and I still do. But I must use them at the appropriate time, and when I use them in the appropriate time for the people that want them, miracles happen. But you all have that. You all have those gifts. Something like that, you do. Because you were born and continue to live on purpose. Spirit don't make no junk. And it certainly didn't make you by an accident. You know, God doesn't just throw people against the wall and see who sticks. It's all on purpose. It's all on purpose. So just take a deep breath. And close your eyes. And if you're willing, say yes. And ask Spirit, what is my purpose? Not short term, but why are you here? Let yourself know. Now, when you take what your purpose is, your incarnation purpose, your why I exist purpose, and you apply that to making the world a bit better, meaning expands in you, and it is so rewarding. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. We're not all born to be Gandhi. We're not all born to be Nelson Mandela. We're not all born to be someone that's going to be known forever and ever. We could just make such a difference to our family, our friends, to our neighborhood, to the people around us. I made a difference to my mother. I made a difference to the generations of women that came before her by simply realizing that she was unskilled but not bad. And she got it. Do you know in the Bible it says the sins of the fathers are visited on the children for 7 generations? So are the blessings of the children visited upon the generations that preceded them by at least 7 generations. If this goes this way, it goes that way, because God is not on the linear timeline we are on. In God, it's all one. When you bless someone, you bless the people that came before them. And maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's why you're here. So take a deep breath. And close your eyes again. And if you're willing, let the Spirit of God show you a worthy, noble purpose that you are going to let make a fire in you in 2025. Just like Mike and I had a purpose. It wasn't my lifelong purpose. It's not why I existed, but why we put together a program for other ministers. Our why was to teach and to expand consciousness. Let the Spirit of God reveal to you a high and holy purpose for 2025. One that gives life meaning. I was talking to someone after his first service, and what he said is he's working with people who are in recovery, but really in recovery, like recovering just so that they can recover. And what he said is, I don't think any of them have a purpose. I don't think any of them have a meaning. It's hard to go through a hard time if you don't know your purpose. Viktor Frankl could go through the concentration camp because he had a meaning and a purpose. He didn't give up. And the universe, you'd have to read the book, the universe supported him in so many ways that were miraculous because he had a high and holy, noble purpose. So if the universe can reveal that to a person who's in conditions that are way beyond my comprehension, it can do it for you and for me and for everyone. Because God does not play favorites. What God gives to all. What God has ever done, it will always do. Because that's the part of God that is consistent. That's the part of God that is never changing. That's the part of God that's available to each and every one of us. And if you don't like the word God, that's perfectly okay. It's just my favorite because I can spell it. You can call it anything you like, but it is available in you, as you, and through you. So, let's just have some fun. I'm on a mission from God. Oh, come on. Well, obviously, that's why the Blues Brothers were a better movie than you guys are right now. I'm on a mission from God. I am a holy angel of heaven. And so it is. And so it shall be for